welcome to yet another episode of Health Discourse with Sakshi and Sushant. So, good morning, Sushant.
Good morning.
Today, folks, we will be discussing something about testosterone. So, we all have seen, heard, listened to a lot of talks, lot of influencers everywhere on social media about how to boost your testosterone levels. And there are very common generic advices which are given, such as gymming regularly and then taking a good sleep, taking a good amount of fluid, and then there are supplements that actually promote this testosterone, right? Now, apart from testosterone, playing a vital role in the sexual health, there are also other factors, right? So, Sushant, let us begin this discussion by throwing light on all the factors which contribute to the testosterone production and how can we actually boost that.
Okay,
Over to
so
you.
let us start with this. So probably these are what you said is baseline recommendations, right? These are generic recommendations which are essential, but doesn't mean if you're doing these things you're going to boost your testosterone, right? So exercise is one of the way, but you have to understand the biochemistry behind it, right? So if for instance, if your body is not producing enough nitric oxide, you will lose the productive benefits of exercise, right? So essentially, testosterone is one of those hormones which is not only impact your sexual health in men and women, but also have a role to play in your metabolic health, right? So it impacts your fat distribution. So people who have low testosterone levels are gain weight or obese, right? It helps improve your bone mass, your muscle strength, right? Uh, Obviously, right? And it has a role to play in production of red blood cells, right? So essentially, people who are deficient of uh, you know testosterone have anemia, right? So again, so the role, the basic understanding behind is that it has a lot to say, a lot to communicate with the microbes living in our gut, in our mouth, right? So there's specific called gut testis axis, right? Now, gut testis axis is the interaction between your testes, your hormones, and your gut microbiome, right? Again, so one of the most important function of the gut microbiome is it regulates the androgen metabolism, right? So we know testosterone is an essential, but the more active form of testosterone is DHT, dihydrotestosterone, right? Which is again, with this synthesis is done by your gut microbiome, right? So essentially, to make sure you have an active form of uh, testosterone, you need to have right set of microbes active in your gut, right? Again, certain nutrients, right, which are essential for your sexual health is vitamin A, folic acid, folate. We all know during pregnancy, females are recommended folate, right? Supplements, right? Uh, Calcium, vitamin K, and all these nutrients are synthesized by your gut microbiome. So people who do not believe it, right? You need to. I will share the research. We'll probably even go through it here, right? So one is the obviously the nutrients bioavailability, right? And then again, another point is the secondary metabolites secreted by your gut microbiome, right? So these metabolites are a lot of neurotransmitters, for instance, GABA, right? Uh, GABA is something that's secreted by your gut microbiome. It has a common effect. It impacts your penicillin, right? Saying this serotonin again do have an impact on testosterone level, right? Similarly, hydrogen sulfide, which is again is byproduct of sulfate producing bacteria are consuming a lot of cruciferous vegetables or foods high in sulfurin, right? Sulfur. And this, although it has an pro-inflammatory impact in your mouth, it could cause halitosis, it could even trigger diarrhea, but it has a protective effect when it comes to your sexual health, right? Second thing is the other metabolites which impact your testosterone level is bitrate, short chain fatty acids, and GLP-1. Again, you all know this is all linked to your high production of bitrate and GLP-1 reduces your risk of obesity and type 2 diabetes, right? Another metabolite is lipopolysaccharides. Again, it is an end product of your microbes consume a lot of sugar and ultra processed foods, right? Which is again which causes adiposity. So people who have who have obesity, right, or high fat, it's because of high production of this metabolite, right? So again, either by gut or oral, LT is produced both by microbes, right? So essentially, both oral gut microbes. So actually it could impact your testosterone level. Besides, there are certain bacteria, right, which could, such as Mycobacterium neorum, which could overexpress a particular enzyme which reduces the testosterone level and increases in sense of depression. So gut-brain axis also comes into picture here, right? So essentially, there's a gut-brain communication also impact your testosterone levels, right? Having said that, you know, uh, we have to understand that one of the most essential metabolite or gas produced inside our body, right, is nitric oxide. Again, nitric oxide is a byproduct of oral microbiome consuming a lot of, nitrate in vegetables being during this phase. Right? So nitric oxide, we know, plays a key role in regulating your oxygen blood flow, uptake of oxygen nutrient delivery. So it plays a key role in exercise performance, right? When it comes to, so nitric oxide do have a role in delivering the oxygen and nutrient to the working muscle, right? But you to understand here the endocrine gland, right, which secretes various hormones, right, including testes, ovaries, and your thyroid, right? So nitric oxide is an essential part of endocrine gland. Right? So essentially, it the secretion of hormones, whether it is testosterone is or maybe thyroid is a secretory process. It involves signaling, right? There is a signal which goes, right? This signal requires nitric oxide. For signal to be it requires nitric oxide. So essentially, secretion of testosterone, right, is requires nitric oxide, right? But here's the catch, right? So essentially, for production of nitric oxide, you need testosterone. But again, until unless we discussed in this case when we discussed also about the type 2 diabetes, right? So if your endothelial nitric synthase is uncoupled due to oxidative stress or inflammation, right? Even the testosterone would not help in production of nitric oxide because you need to be for production of nitric oxide, ENOs has to be functional, right? So essentially, nitric oxide plays a role in secretion of hormones, including testosterone, including thyroid, right? It also plays a role in the balancing of hormones, circulatory level of hormones, right? So there is this, uh, so hormone receptors have to sense it. For that sensing, there has to be a proper blood flow and oxygen and blood flow delivery. And again, that is done by nitric oxide, right? So essentially, it is very, very important to understand that your nitric oxide play a very key role in hormone regulation, in signaling and in signaling cascades and sensing, which make sure that your blood flows to your sexual organ and you don't have erectile dysfunction. Again, so for testosterone to be secreted, you need nitric oxide, right? You need endothelial cell uh, ENOS to be functional. It should not be uncoupled, right? Again, even if you go for some therapy or you think your workout is increasing your testosterone level, but still you have erectile dysfunction, it is because even if testosterone may increase your potential to produce nitric oxide, but if your ENOS is uncoupled, probably nitric oxide will not be produced, and there will be no blood flow, there will be no erectile erection, right? So there will be erectile dysfunction. So understanding the interaction between gut and the testosterone, gut testosterone, and the production of nitric oxide have a role to play in our testosterone level. So, but just by saying having enough water, having sleep, exercise, having right nutrition, right? These all are baseline recommendations. But right nutrition, who will design nutrition? Having excess protein is really, really harmful, right? So essentially we have discussed this. We'll not get into too much detail, but they will discuss this about the harmful effects of excess protein consumption. So testosterone levels, sexual health of male is linked to the functions of the gut and oral microbiome. Yeah.
That's actually pretty intriguing because nitric oxide is something we have been talking about, right, in our previous talks. And yes, Also, I am curious to know that are there any, there are a lot of people who also take steroids, right, for their
Mm.
workout performance, and then they take other sort of powders, the pre-workout thing, and all these things. So, does it impact the testosterone levels?
It doesn't, you don't need that. It's just a
Okay.
myth that just a myth that we take this, our exercise performance would be good, so we will have more testosterone. There are research which we have shared and also shared with that to improve the exercise performance, you need nitric oxide production because it helps in delivery of oxygen and nutrients to the working muscle tissue, right? Even coffee is counterproductive. It can suppress nitric oxide production, right? So essentially you don't need to have a lot of caffeine, and there's all a way of all these supplement come to sell their supplements, right? It has nothing to do with boosting testosterone. Obviously, exercise do help. I'm not saying exercise doesn't help, but to generate the cardio productive benefits of exercise, you need to have enough nitric oxide production, right?
And
So
how is nutrition actually playing a role here in terms of
obviously,
testosterone levels?
nutrition plays a role, right? So essentially, when you are eating certain foods, your such as magnesium, right? Foods high in magnesium. So essentially, your microbes in your gut convert that into GABA, right? So again, which has a role to play in your testosterone level. Your serotonin, 90% serotonin is produced in the gut, right? These vitamin minerals I mentioned about folate acid, vitamin A, all these things are part of your nutrition. You ingest them, and again, the bioavailability or the absorption of this nutrient depends upon your gut microbiome. It's not only about what you're eating, it's also about how your microbes are interacting with the food you're eating, right? So short chain fatty acids, GLP-1 is all you're consuming a lot of fiber and polyphenols and flavonoids and antioxidants, which produces GLP-1 and bitrate, which promotes your metabolic health, which promotes your testosterone levels, right? Similarly, taking too much of ultra-processed foods, sugar, or foods which are not aligned with the biology, probably, we can produce LPS has a negative effect on your testosterone level. Nitric oxide, which is one of the most important molecule, it's actually produced by your microbes in your gut, right? When you consume a lot of nitrate-rich foods like green leaves, spinach, arugula, kale, a lot of these vegetables which produce nitric oxide. So obviously, nutrition has a role to play in this, right? So again, you can't have an better exercise performance if there's no nutrient delivery to your muscle tissue, right? Working muscle tissue. So again, that is done by your
I
nitric
think
oxide.
I think from what I can actually conclude here is that absorption of nutrients is essential. Like you mentioned, vitamin A, the folate part, and then nitric oxide production is something that we have been stressing a lot in all most of the talks,
Mm.
because it essentially regulates our blood flow. So I think nutrient absorption here is going to play a major role, you know, in terms
In
of
fact,
molecular activities.
I'll say you to understand your biochemistry because nutrient absorption is also linked to your what your microbiome are doing inside your body, right? So you
Yes,
need to
yes.
fix your biochemistry. You need to understand which microbes are there, what they're doing, what metabolites they're secreting, what microbes are living in your mouth, whether they are really active to produce nitric oxide, or the microbes in the gut are really active to actually produce GABA, or probably you have a lot of oxidative because of consumption of seed oils and oils which are high in polyunsaturated fats, right? Or you're eating too much of outside food which is made in hydrogenated oils, right? So all these have oxidative stress, reacts with oxygen, oxidative stress. You know, I discussed this yesterday that it suppresses your tetrahydrobiopterin BH4, which again is one of the cofactor which is required for, you know, uh, enzymatic activities of ENOS to produce nitric oxide, right? So essentially, these all things impact. It is not only about just having exercise, there's a multiple factors comes into play here.
I think this is where we come to the conclusion of this talk, Sushant. Any
Uh,
last words you would like to add here?
Don't fall for generic claims. Yeah, we know exercise is required, but understand too much of exercise releases reactive oxide species, right? So you need to be very wary of, and you have to understand your biochemistry behind. If you have a low testosterone level which is coming in your blood work, you do not blindly assume that if I work out 2 hours a day in the gym, it will it will be fine, right? You have to understand the biochemistry, why it is low, right? And then if you don't understand that, it is no point of, going to gym or doing hard weight training, right? So that is the key to understand. Yeah?
So I think with this, we have concluded this discussion. So for all our listeners, in case if you're wondering that how do you measure the GABA and serotonin, so I'd like to remind you here that we do measure this by our two tests. Shan, would you like to add here some information
Yes.
about this, our solutions?
Yeah, so we do look at your genes expressed by your microbiome. We measure your biology and chemistry, measure your biochemistry, right? So now we could measure everything just looking at your saliva. So I am not talking about DNA testing here. So we look at the functions and genes expressed by oral microbiome, right? Which has an impact on your entire body health, right? And we have a flagship gut microbiome solution where you can understand the functions and the metabolites secreted by your gut microbiome, right? So take back
So
control of your health is
anyone
more.
who wants, yeah. So Sushant, I think we can probably share the link in the description in case somebody wants to know about the testosterone levels and all these activities happening inside the body. They can
Hmm.
probably get on a discovery call with us, and then they might decide if that is the right solution for them or not. Yeah.
And this is a one-to-one call, and this is free of cost. We don't charge for
Yeah,
these
we don't
sessions.
charge
Yeah.
for that. Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sushant, for this very intuitive discussion. It was very enlightening, and because you have broken a lot of myths regarding the testosterone levels. So thank you, folks. Thank you, Sushant.
Thank you. Bye bye.